Hello friends, it's Terry with Terry's Mailbox, and today I'm presenting the Saturday showcase for the Funkie Junkie Boutique. So the showcase is where we select a product and then focus on it. So I chose to use this Floral Outline stamp from Stampers Anonymous to make several different cards. So I'll show you 6 different ways. So here is that Floral Outline stamp. I just love this thing. It's very vintage, antique-y looking, and has pretty good sized blooms on it. So I'm using this rock, and then I'm also using 110-pound vellum, which is very heavy, and I'm going to do the alcohol technique on that particular cardstock. So here's the first card I made. This one is just simply stamped and splattered. So I started out with one of the floral blooms, and I'm inking up specific sections of it. So using bundled sage for the leaves, and then I'll move on to shaded lilac and wilted violet for the blooms, and then I'll select a piece of the distressed watercolor cardstock, and we'll go ahead and put that out there. And then I'm going to spritz the stamp with just water, and then I'm stamping it in the lower corner, and then I'm going to lightly spritz it one more time, and I'll stamp up in that upper corner. And so again, all I did with this card was just to splatter the background and added a sentiment. Here's one that's ink smooshed with a stamped image. Same thing here, kind of a green background. This one here has the stamp. It was inked and then watered down and stamped on that Smoosh Background. And here's another one where there's lots of water on the stamp, which made it really move. So again, here's the first card I'm going to use. So again, I'll show you the ink smooshing. Love this technique. And again, I'm adding peeled paint and bundled sage onto my craft mat and just breaking it up with my fingers. And then we'll go ahead and ink smoosh. And then I'm using my heat tool to dry it in between so that I can get several layers, which just adds additional texture to the creation. So again, just adding additional layers there. And so we'll go ahead and just kind of ink smoosh. So then I stamped the image on there with black archival, and now I'm just coloring in the blooms. So here is Victorian Velvet. This is one that I pulled out. I don't use this color a lot, but I decided to use it in some of my creations today. And so the next 2 colors I used were Spiced Marmalade and Mustard Seed for the yellow blooms. So we're just kind of, just smooshing them on the craft mat and then using water to color the images. I have one of the flat palettes that I have a lot of my re-inkers in, but that is a real concentrated color. And so I wanted something that was softer and would kind of blend through here, more of a transparent look. So again, just kind of coloring in here. I thought that looked real pretty. And then the next thing I'll do is add the green for the leaves. So again, more of the bundled sage on here, and just kind of coloring in the leaves. Finishing that part up here. Just still working on painting the leaves. Looks like I forgot a section of the bloom here, so I'm going back to capture it. Very pretty. Like that one a lot. And so we'll move on to the next one. This is one of the ink smooshed backgrounds again. So I started out with that one image that I'd really watered down quite a bit, and it really spread. But what I'm doing now is I've added water to make it wick. I am working on distressed watercolor paper. So again, I'm going to kind of heat dry it so it doesn't get too out of control on me. And then I do want to stamp over this image with archival, so that's the other reason to dry. See the wicking there from the darker color blooms? How it just kind of spread out there on the watercolor paper. Pretty cool. So the next thing I did was I selected a bloom, and I'm going to stamp it with black soot archival ink, and I'm kind of trying to figure out approximately where the image was. So again, Stampers Anonymous stamps are always pretty well outlined, so you can pretty well figure out where you are. So the next thing I'm going to do is just ink smoosh that background. So here I've got my shaded lilac again, and we're just kind of smooshing, adding a little bit of texture, and then we'll go ahead and dry it off. So again, you can see these cards, I've got several layers on them. I've got not only, watercolor ink stamping, I've got image stamping, I've got ink smooshing. So again, all of these different things added to the texture of these cards. So the next thing I'm going to do is just paint in all of those leaves and the blooms. Just working here. And then we'll pull out the wilted violet, add that on here. I love using the different shades of purple. I'm so glad that Tim has all the different shades so that we can really get creative. Painting that one in. And here's my last card that I'm going to walk you through. This one's done in alcohol ink on that 110-pound vellum. So the first thing, archival ink a few different on that 110-pound vellum. And so this is the image that I elected to use for this particular card. So the first thing I did was throw on some alcohol ink. I moved over to my glass mat, obviously. This is mushroom alcohol ink. So again, I'm using my blower tool to kind of move it around here. And there's more alcohol. I've got it in a dropper bottle. And you can see that the alcohol is impacting the archival ink a little bit. I guess maybe next time on the background, but we've started, so I'm going to go ahead and finish it here. We're going to pull out another color. And so the next color I'm using, I believe, is Flamingo alcohol ink. So again, you could use just about any pink or red here to fill in the blooms. Just kind of working on filling in the blooms. I think this is looking pretty good. So then I'm going to add a yellow and an orange. Not sure of the colors. I'll have to look those up for you. But again, just kind of filling in the different flowers here. And you can see I'm working off screen a little bit. I apologize for that. But we're still just filling in the flowers. And so here is the final card. You can see I ink splattered a little bit on it. But what I'm going to do now is I am actually using double-sided tape on this vellum. You know how vellums always creates a problem when you try to glue it. You've got to try to hide the glue, etc. So I found that using this double-sided tape and taping the entire background really makes it easy. So I'll use my folder to kind of make sure that it is completely flat. And so here's this one with the ink smooshing. Here's that alcohol ink one again. I thought that turned out real pretty. And then here's that one there. And I did stamp in the background with the ledger stamp on that green one. And so here's kind of that smooshed. This one here I'm not going to put a sentiment on because I think it speaks highly enough. So here I'm kind of adding some interest to the background here using the ledger stamp. Love this thing. I use it a lot. I use the same stamp on the back of this one and kind of colored it in with the bundled sage I think I used peel paint to actually put the ledger stamp on there, and now I'm just smooshing around, ink blending around the edges with bundled sage. So now I'm going to move on to adding all of the sentiments. So I'm using archival ink. So I'll list the stamp sets that these came from. Some of them are older stamp sets that I've had in my collection for quite a while. But again, I'm using the archival inks to add the sentiments. And sometimes on watercolor paper, you do have to go back and forth a couple of times to make sure that you get really good images. So I have one little place there that was being a problem. So I'm kind of going back and, you know, adding extra pressure right there, and then I'll put one more coat right there. So here's the final cards. This is the ink smooshed. All I did was just stamp the image and stamp the sentiment. This is that one where I just smooshed the background and left it alone and added the ledger stamp. Here is this one, which is layered. It's got the stamping and the ledger stamp and ink smooshing and painting on it. Here's this one that's just simply stamped and splattered with a sentiment on it. And here's this one, again, where I colored in the image after, and I decided to add a few little black bling pieces on there. And then here's that alcohol ink piece again that I added the archival ink to. So again, it's Terry with Terry's Mailbox presenting for the Funkie Junkie Boutique. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Blogger. Would love to have you follow and or subscribe. Have a great day.